This may come as a shock based on my history of content, but it's true. I have seen what outside looks like, and I do in fact like sports. Never been a big fan of watching them, however. I'm the type of guy to watch the Super Bowl for Deadpool 3 and wonder why everyone is suddenly losing their marbles over Travis Kelce making a hole-in-one. I mainly stick with weights and calisthenics nowadays to stay active, but back in my youth, the sport I played for the longest was easily baseball, and I hated every waking second of it. It was clear as day I wasn't going pro in any sport. I have the stamina of a shitty fridge magnet with low blood sugar and the awareness of the average US deer. Nevertheless, I watched hella sports movies. Some were great, some were mid, and some were the pinnacle of Western cinema, but none of them match up to the love and nostalgia I have for the 1994 hood classic, The Sandlot. I've rewatched this jaunt probably about 8 or 9 times, and my favorite thing about this film, and probably why it's so memorable compared to other movies in its league, is how little it actually has to do with baseball. It goes from your everyday coming-of-age underdog story to fucking Cujo and some Go-Go Gadget codename Kids Fast 5 heist type shit. The story follows the new kid on the block, Scotty Smalls. He spends all his free time indoors building doohickeys and still going to bed in full jammies. I can see why he got no friends. His mom really sat him down just to tell him to touch grass, and I completely understand why. For what reason was this elaborate contraption aimed right at the entrance? This was attempted murder. You cannot tell me this wasn't pre-planned. He only apologizing because he ain't finished the job. Actually, now that I think about it, it might have been meant for this guy. They played catch once and had his stepdad considering stepping out his life. Had the ball delivered to his glove same day shipping. Gave him the Joe Jackson stare. My guy really pulled up to the field with slacks and a display glove from Barnes & Nobles. I'd be remiss if I didn't comment on the length of that brim. He look up any further, it's gonna look like a map marker. That brim chilling with his father. Beacon of hope ass brim. How many channels y'all think you get with that bitch? This shit is just tragic. Neither father figure taught him how to throw or catch. There was nowhere near enough velocity in that throw to cause a black eye. That glove perished in the line of duty. That glove on antidepressants. Big bro Benny ended up taking pity on him and gave him an extra glove he had up his ass for such an occasion. He introduces him to the gang, and you gotta give props to the character design. You've got the two brothers who are word for word the same character. There's Yeah. I wonder what his deal is. Squints, the aspiring sex offender. Bertram, who looks like he's been kicked out of Goodwill for making advances on the coffee makers. De Nunez, the black one. And Hamilton, the fat one. Normally, I'd say he should have squared up right then and there, but I don't think you're trying to get another black eye. Smalls finally gets to play an actual position, and this blockhead deadass asks him where's left center. Dog. You ain't gonna believe this. For a straight-A student, your comprehension skills are that of an orange peel. Benny tries to throw him a bone, but it's all in vain. He threw up his legs before he threw up his glove. I find it hilarious in hindsight how this entire film so far has been about Smalls learning how to ball and making actual friends. But once he actually catches the ball with his eyes closed and learned how to throw from a 5-second crash course, that's it. That's the end of his arc. They're friends now. Anything in the movie from this point forward is just random antics. Remember when I mentioned Cujo? This whole time there's been a goddamn Cerberus behind that fence with an insatiable craving for future draft picks. It makes me wonder if their treehouse was already there or they decided to build it right next to the lion's den. Who owns this property? I'm just gonna assume at least one of these dudes lived next to the beast because my head hurts trying to make sense of something that obviously was not thought about whatsoever. I like to think that if he never learned how to play, they would have sacrificed him to the beast on some Aztec type shit. Squints tells them the story of the beast and how Mufasa was forced to keep him chained away. Basically, if Clifford was from Baltimore.
Tomorrow.
Squints and Yeah walk out the drugstore and Squints immediately goes into a catatonic state. He saw a white woman with ass and ain't know how to act. Made him hit the and I completely understand. He learned to appreciate the bigger things in life. They end up going to the local pool and Ham wasted no time throwing out some game. I'm surprised his fat ass ain't threw out his back on the way of the ledge. Fuck is you flexing your BMI? I'm not above making fun of children. Besides, he's like 80 these days. I'm sure he's just fine. Know who else just fine? Wendy Paffercorn. And that's the last thing I'll say about her appearance because in all honesty, this bitch a predator. Had my man Squints in a chokehold, his hormones calling to him like the Green Goblin goblin mask. He's never spoken to a single woman in his entire career, and his first course of action was to fucking kill himself. This man really pulled a Matthew Perry and tricked her into playing tonsil hockey. From a stunt like this, I can definitely see him spiking a few drinks when he's older. It's like a serial killer starting with small animals. Eventually, they're gonna start aiming higher. Wendy ain't no better, though. I can definitely see her saying some shit like, "I'll be back for you when you're 18. Spoiler alert, they had 9 kids. She on that Elvis timing. I love the way this next scene is portrayed. Fireworks for most Americans above the age of 7, I'd wager has lost all its spark and luster. But the way this scene is directed, along with the music, just gives it a level of coziness that only nostalgia could bring. Takes me back to a simpler time when my life wasn't a never-ending goose chase for money and validation. This got too real. The next day rolls around and the douchehole committee shows up trying to start shit. They ain't ask if they could play, run a scrimmage, nothing. They deadass showed up just to hate. The Sandlot boys already knew what time it was though. The varsity jackets were a dead giveaway. The group leader starts talking hella smack, and look at Ham's face. He is in disbelief. The only other scenario I could apply this to is when you're taking out the trash and the bag juice drips onto the back of your leg. Just pure shock and horror. He ain't let it slide though. They start passing insults around like syphilis at a gay orgy, and with his back against the wall, Ham pulls his ace.
You play ball like a girl!
The crowd is in shock. A generational comeback that would age worse than Lil Wayne. They end up running the ones on their home turf, and it's just an absolute blowout. Ham was talking his shit the entire game. Even till this day, these lines are absolute gold.
If my dog was as ugly as you, I'd shave his butt and tell him to walk backwards. Hey, is that your sister out there in left field? Naked? She's naked. Shut up!
They end up going out to celebrate, doing what every group of young boys would do. Something they shouldn't. Chewing tobacco and getting on a roller coaster only to end up projectile vomiting all over the place. These poor girls had no clue they were in the splash zone. She won't forget this as long as she lives. This must have been what it was like watching Madam Web. The next day, Benny's up to the plate and straight up blew the ball's back out. Killed the ball and the entire vibe along with it. They was jumping Ham's fat ass earlier for losing their ball to Kurama, but you already know they ain't finna try that shit with their glorious King Benny. Scotty then gets the bright idea to raid his stepdad's trophy room while he's out of town.
I got it, guys! I got it! I got the ball, guys! It's right here, guys! Got the ball! I got it!
Y'all think he got the ball? He ends up hitting his first homer just to find out the ball was signed by
Babe Ruth! Babe Ruth! The Sultan of SWAT! King of Crash! The Colossus of Clout! The Colossus of Clout! The Great Big...
I honestly don't know who's munching more meat, these guys or the Babe himself, with how many hot dogs this drunk bastard would shove down his gullet. It's no wonder he died from stomach cancer. Everything he put in there was cancer. They all chip in order to plant a look-alike, and the quest to retrieve the ball back from Anthrax, destroyer of the 9 realms, is in full swing. First thing they try is putting Drake through a hole in the fence just for Cujo to hit him with the regular show step-off. Twice. If she don't leave you like this, she ain't the one. Now, after failing to retrieve the ball using sticks and pans, the obvious next step would be to try lipo. See, that's how you know this wasn't Ham's idea. Never mind where the fuck they got these vacuums. That ball dirtier than a fat bitch's microwave. At this point, it's probably worth about as much as they paid for the decoy. So after blowing up their treehouse, if only that was his brother's ashes, and deploying Yeah into enemy territory, y'all think he volunteered for this, or? Suddenly, it's now nature versus science, or Chupacabra versus Backyard BattleBot. They were literally scraping doubloons together for a single ball. Where did they get the funding for this material? It doesn't work, and they leave with their heads down in shame. Later that night, Smalls is having nightmares about getting molested by a baseball,
hammering me into the ground.
Meanwhile, Benny's PEDs got him tripping, seeing the ghost of Babe Ruth past, or some shit.
Everybody gets one chance to do something great.
Samuel L. Jackson didn't hit a breakout role until he was in his 40s. Abraham Lincoln lost his run for senator. Twice. Honestly, M put it better.
One shot, one
opportunity. At the crib playing Fortnite with your grandma.
Talking about one chance. My father gave me one chance to grab him another beer and I got cracked over the head with a 3x9. Benny decides he's gonna face the beast head on using some new foams that he scuffs and creases straight out the box. Every sneakerhead within a 100-meter radius just fell to their knees in anguish. He hops the fence and it ain't long until Border Patrol comes along looking much smaller than previous showings.
That was off the chain. Then Star Wars transition later. Princess devours the paper boy. Oh, I'm gonna touch myself. Princess devours the local paper boy like the sand pussy who ate Boba Fett. He wasn't even good enough to be a milkman. After banning the bees destroy a low-income neighborhood, we see Ham hold on to dear life to Squints as he desperately scans the trash for a med pack. Look at him! He even runs like a bat! Wouldn't be surprised he got a gold medal in water weight. The only reason he got gold though was because he ate all the competition. Damn! Look at those verticals. Benny's in the wrong sport. The Bulls need a power forward on their squad. Fat must replenish.
Don't be fooled, young one. They feed off innocence. You can see it in their eyes. They make their way back to the Sandlot, and the dog takes a bite out of his jersey, just fucking with his entire fit. He can't go to the club like this. That should be grounds for lethal injection, but the fence ends up falling on the dog, and because no one likes seeing an animal in pain, Benny and Smalls lift the fence off and end up winning the dog over. They bring the dog back to the owner, and you know, thank God he couldn't see his fence had been torn down, otherwise he probably would have just told them to fuck off. Smalls' dad accepts the peace offering, and y'all already know the rest. I'm not gonna lie, the way I used this ending in my last Attack on Titan video is one of my favorite things I've ever written. The more laid-back commentary isn't exactly my favorite, but let me know if you'd like to see more vids like this in the future. Shout out to Young Swift for hopping on, and keep an eye out because the next video about to be crazy. Thank you, and bye-bye.